Hey, so in this review, we will be discussing Mistborn Era 2. Uh, so I'm just going to do a review of the whole series because the books themselves, first of all, I listened to them like one right after the other, so it sort of blended into each other. But also, they're not the most substantive books ever, so I'm not really sure how much video time I could get out of each individual one. So we'll do all three. Um, so that's those three books are The Alloy of Law, Shadows of Self, and then The Bands of Mourning, which I just finished. So first of all, just like the real quick review, if you want to just be here for a few seconds, is that these books are good, and I enjoy them, and they're fun Mistborn books, but they're not like to the same scale or necessarily the same quality as Era One, and maybe some of the other stuff that Brandon's written that you're used to. So read them if you like Brandon, and read them if you like maybe a shorter, more chill few books to get through quickly. But yeah, they don't quite have the substance that some of his other books do. So let's get into a little bit more details. So starting with so the books they get better. The first one I felt like was the weakest. The second one was a little bit better, and the third one I think was actually like really good. So some of the problems that I had with the first book, which made it maybe not as good, is that I just didn't feel that the plot was really there in terms of like a Brandon epic story. But I do have to say that we're very spoiled by Brandon. You know what I mean? Like Brandon's always giving us, like real massive big plot lines with like real well developed and stuff. So you're kind of used to it when you pick up a Brandon Sanderson book. But this book, it's much more small scale. There's just some dudes. Spoilers, by the way, big spoilers. There's just some dudes like robbing some trains, and you're like, well, that's cool, I guess, but it's not like epic scale or anything. And the way they resolve it is pretty. They just go in and shoot some people, and I mean, I like shooting people as much as the next guy, and it's fun, and I enjoy it. But yeah, so it's not exactly like the biggest plot ever. Although it does sort of set up the plot of the next couple of books, because you realize that the dude funding old Miles, which is I would say the main bad guy of book one, is in fact the bad guy who's going to be your bad guy for book 2 and 3, arguably. He's like the big bad of the short series. So book 2 is better. Book 2 has and I would say the reason it's better is because there's some real emotional stakes. So book 1, he tries to give us some emotional stakes, because he's like, he knew the big villain is like he knew was like a lawman and stuff, but it doesn't really land too much, because I try and go with this idea that when one of your own goes bad, you gotta like put him down and stuff. But I would say that didn't really land with me, because he also goes to great lengths to say that there wasn't really that much camaraderie between lawmen and out there in the roughs, and they didn't really work together that much, and so the idea that Wax was particularly emotionally invested because this was a lawman, it sort of didn't quite work for me. But then book 2, there's some real emotional stakes. Now, like big spoilers, like seriously, this will ruin the book unless you if you listen to this before reading it. So seriously, click away if you haven't read it. But yeah, so book 2 with like the conjurer, imitating his wife, out in the roughs and stuff. That was a really big reveal. I thought it was really interesting, because I was actually quite emotionally invested in the character, which we'll get into in a little bit. So yeah, book 2 really landed for me. I really enjoyed it. I will say though that once again the plot felt a little bit small, where it was it was dressed up very well and there was good characters and stuff, but the overall plot is basically a crazy guy trying to bring down government, which is not the biggest, coolest plot, but it works. And once again, there's some good stuff in that book, and the emotional stakes at the end were really big, and I thought it was really well done. We'll get into that a bit more when I discuss some of the characters. And in book 3, which I've just finished, I would say is the strongest book. And I'd say mainly that's because the plot is a bit bigger, and a bit more well developed. You have very well defined stakes and big stakes. So if we don't succeed here, this will happen. If we don't succeed here, they'll get the Bands of Mourning. If we don't succeed here, they'll attack us and there'll be civil war and stuff. So stakes are bigger, and I liked a little bit of a political intrigue towards the start. I liked. And all of that, like the start bit, and then the final sort of set piece of the series is really, really well done. So yeah, book 3 I think is the strongest. But yeah, let's get into now. Let's just discuss some of the characters. So your two, I guess your two leads are Wax and Wayne. So to start with Wax, some people have said that they find Wax's character a bit flat, which I don't really think I agree with. I think that Wax is quite a well-developed character. You get a lot of his backstory, you understand why he is how he is, and he got real well-developed in book 2, like I was talking about. So I feel like we really know who he is and why he is how he is. So I don't know if I would say he's a flat character. In fact, I actually really enjoy Wax as a character. And I think his relationships with the two female leads really define how he, really make him an enjoyable, deeper character. Which we'll get into when we talk about them. So yeah, I enjoy Wax. I think he's well developed. I think he's cool, and do hope to see him again in some Brandon Sanderson books. Then we have Wayne, who a lot of people like, and I mean, I like Wayne as well. He's just like a fun, goofy character who you enjoy. You just like, for me, I was listening to it, and the audiobook narrator did a really cool voice for him as well. So you just enjoy him, and he's just fun. But he's not the most well developed. He has like a little bit of backstory where he like and you do get a little bit of his backstory in book 2 as well, which is good. Like why he can't hold guns and stuff, and that is interesting. But I don't know if I would call him like the super well developed character, but it's fine because the whole point of his character is that he's like a total numpty, and you can't really explain anything he's doing anyway. So like, who cares? And yeah, so I enjoy that. And then we have the 2 female leads, Steris and Mercy, who I think I would say are a little bit weaker. They feel like they're really cool, particularly Mercy. But Steris does feel a little bit one-dimensional, where it feels like he had sort of like an idea what he wanted to do with a character. He's like, I want like a real uptight character who's super organized, and I want to put her into situations that make her realize that maybe that's actually not how she wants to live, and she wants to live a more open and experience-filled life. And that's a cool idea, but I just feel like he stuck by the numbers a little bit too much on that. Like it was very obvious where it was going, and what was happening. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Some people have simple journeys, like in real life, like that exact same thing might happen. But yeah, it just lacked a little bit of interest for me. But she's like a nice, interesting character, and I enjoyed her little journey, even if it was perhaps a bit simplistic. And then we have Mercy, who we stuck with from the start. Of course, we met Steris at the start as well, but Steris isn't such a big character in perhaps some of the earlier stuff. And Mercy is fun and interesting as well. I will say though that I felt a bit maybe a lack of connection with Mercy. I don't think anything about the way she's written is bad, or like her character or anything. I think it's all really good. I just didn't really personally connect with her very much. Particularly at the end, where she's like, "Oh, this isn't me. I don't want this power and stuff." And for me, I was like, I don't really relate to that very well. Not to say that people aren't like that, or that she wouldn't do that, or anything like that. It's just that for me, I didn't really get into her character because it's just not something. The way she interacts with the world is not the way I see the world, and so yeah, it made it a bit hard for me to sort of really get into her as a character. And then some of our minor characters are also fun. I like Aradel, the police constable who becomes governor. I just think he's a really cool. I think he's a really fun, interesting character. Like the way he takes power and stuff. I think he's just quite a wholesome dude, and I enjoyed that. So to get into maybe some of the magic system, yes, let's get into that. The magic system is so cool. I mean, obviously you know what it is. It's Allomancy, Ferrochemy. I mean, we've seen it before, but in such a new and interesting context, like with skyscrapers, he's like shooting his gun around skyscrapers to like fly with his bullets and like fly up skyscrapers and shit. I mean, that's just really cool. Like it's a really Because, like, all the rules of Allomancy, we know them. We're not learning anything new necessarily, but, like, Brandon Sanderson is still showing us, like, the really cool ways that his magic system can be applied. And because it's so logical, like, right afterwards, you're like, yeah, of course you could shoot a gun and then, like, jump around with it. But you don't really think about that until, someone does it. So yeah, and it's just used, like, the magic system is just used consistently in a really cool way. The way Wax uses his weight metal mind throughout the series is just really cool. And at times you wouldn't think about it. So that's, yeah, I really like the magic system. I like the setting. I like, sort of this post Mistborn Era 1 setting. I will say that, for me, some of my favourite parts of this book, or these books, I should say, is just the references to the original trilogy, because obviously, if you checked out my channel, you'll know that I just finished the original trilogy again, so I was really, like, all these references to, like, High Imperial, which is basically just, like, the really weird way that, Spook spoke, is really cool, and I liked Sazed Harmony as well. I thought that was really interesting. Because, he's been, like, God for, like, 300 years, so seeing how he's changed and stuff is really cool. There are, like, Allendale, like, all the references to the original trilogy, and, like, for talking about, like, how other people view the... Because the thing is, which is interesting, is we knew the characters really well. I mean, we followed their story, right? But to see how other people view them, and, like, this deification sort of storyline that Brandon likes to... has been sort of, like, talking about for this whole, like, how... people become revered and become godlike figures like Kelsier and stuff. And I thought it was just really cool to explore a little bit more of that and see how these people see these, like, mythological figures. So I really, really like that. Was there anything else? Okay, so let's get into some of the like, negatives of the series, which there are a few, but I mean, these are just... It's almost a little bit nitpicky, because, like, I obviously do really like it, but yeah, these are just a few things that, like, fell a bit flat for me, like, a bit, I wasn't a big fan of. So, first of all, we have some of the way that Wax does stuff. This is fresh in my mind because I just finished the last book, where his, like, uncle challenges him to an honorable duel, and even though he's got, like, literally all the power of fucking, like, the Lord Ruler, he's, like, super OP and powerful, he, like, decides to do this, like, small duel thing with his uncle anyway, and it's like, would you really do that? I mean, if you're a lawman and you're so concerned about justice and stuff, would you really just like sign up for like a duel you might lose rather than just using your power to just deal with him? It's sort of a little bit like the whole the Batman thing, you know, where it's like Batman doesn't kill. It's like, yeah, but he kind of does kill, right? Like let's be honest, he does kill. Like people, you know, he punches. You know, if you punch 100 people on the street, one of them's gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of, we had that a little bit where like it's like, oh, Wax doesn't want to kill him, he's not like the executioner and stuff, and it's like, well, didn't you kill like a whole bunch of people, like, and I get it, those people were shooting at him, but like his uncle is actually way worse than any of his people, and he doesn't want to kill his uncle. So yeah, I didn't really like that, and it just made the whole end sequence feel a bit flat for me, because I'm like, well, wouldn't you just kill this dude? Like, why are we going through these like swings and roundabouts? Well, I wouldn't say it makes the whole end sequence feel a bit flat. That's not true at all. But most of the end sequence is really cool. It makes the very last bit of the end sequence feel a bit flat. One cool thing. Sorry, for the structure of this video is like all over the place. None of my videos normally have good structure, but anyway, one of the things I did really like was the little Wayne thing at the end where Lil Wayne was the thing where Wayne picks up the gun and just shoots Wax's sister. Even though he's like, you know, so it's like a little bit of like a not a redemption thing, but it's just a thing where he sort of faces his demons with the whole gun thing. I thought that was quite fun and quite cool. The other thing, one other negative I wanted to talk about was that the villain suit, Wax's uncle, felt a little bit flat. This whole like the set thing, like I get what he was going with. He's going for like organization which opposes the protagonist, and so the whole organization is the antagonist and is represented by an individual. Like that's a pretty standard like storytelling archetype. I mean, James Bond is basically just that over and over again, right? We have an evil organization fronted by a single evil dude, so it's not bad. I just didn't feel intimidated by the set. Really, I didn't really like understand them as an entity that I was supposed to be like afraid of or feel particularly strongly about. Like they're bad guys and they need to be stopped. But it didn't really excite me. And then his uncle, I thought his uncle was a cool character. I thought his uncle was like quite James Bond villainish, like a James Bond villain, and I liked it. But his uncle, his sort of his motivations were a little bit flat. Like they weren't really developed too much. So it's just sort of like the thing where it's like Allendale oppresses, we must overthrow and stuff. It's like, yeah, I guess, but I mean, I'm not really super behind this narrative. Okay, so yeah, that's like my criticisms. One more good thing that I liked was this silly like newspaper clippings in the last book. I just thought those were real fun. Where it's just like Alamanza Jack and his like thing. I don't know. I just thought those were like fun little interludes. Because the thing about this book is one thing that I enjoy, because I like, obviously the tone of the first Mistborn series was quite like dark. Like, I mean, there's little ash falling from the sky. Like, it's a dark series, right? But I just felt that the tone of this trilogy was much lighter and much more chill. And so I kind of enjoyed that just for a change. Just to have like characters that are a little bit more optimistic and a little bit more of an optimistic world. The problem, like for example, the problems are a bit smaller. Like the problems in Mistborn, the first one, is that there's literally like an evil dictator and all the world is ending. I mean, those are pretty gnarly problems. Whereas the problems in this series, that like the politicians are corrupt, and obviously it's bad the politicians are corrupt, but you see how I'm saying that the problems aren't necessarily as bad, and so it's a little bit more lighthearted. Even, I mean, people are still dying, and it's still pretty hungers, but the way it's delivered is a bit more chill. So I enjoyed that. So yeah, if you're looking for like a more relaxed Mistborn experience, if you will, then yeah, definitely pick up these books and tell me and if you have read them, just tell me what you think about them, and what you think about what I said about it. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.